A Harbaugh humdinger in week 7? Yeah, I just said that. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner _. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Been in sports radio since 2011 in Phoenix. Been hosting this lovely podcast since 2017. Going on my 8th year every dayers. Thanks for being here, whether it be from day one or if this is your first listen. Thank you. Maybe make tomorrow your second. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. So you get a notification when I'm spewing things out of my big dumb face. We're in the middle of a 6-part series where I discuss every game the Cardinals have in 2024. Works out nicely. There's going to be the bye week segment as well, for those that are wondering. I think it's good just to have, like, going into the future in week 1 in September about what we could witness the Cardinals go through. I think it's fun. I think it's a fun exercise. It gets you juiced up for the season, number one. Camp's 2 weeks away. So this is going to take us right up to camp, and I did that on purpose. I was going to do it earlier, but I figured that getting up to camp, ramping up, and then when actual football starts again, I think it's just a nice little appetizer for camp starting and everything like that. So going through every week, kind of the hot button topics, new players, coaches, expectations, changes, not only from the Cardinals, but for the teams that they're facing. I think it's just going to be a fun exercise. So thanks for going along with me. Chargers in week 7, the Monday Night Football game for the Cardinals. Jim Harbaugh, new head coach. Keenan Allen, gone. Mike Williams, gone. Austin Eckler, gone. What the Cardinals did, or what the Chargers did, was they chose defense. They chose Justin Herbert and the guys they have on defense. Derwin James, Nick Bosa, Khalil Mack, Sunday Samuel Jr. still there, obviously, because he's still on his rookie scale contract. And then they brought in Gus Edwards. They brought in J.K. Dobbins. And they're going to ride with Quentin Johnson. And they're going to ride with the run-first Jim Harbaugh smash-mouth offense, smash-mouth defense, stencil. So this is set up to be one of the harder-hitting matchups that the Cardinals are going to be facing. Who would have thought? Cliff Kingsbury led offense a couple years ago. Brandon Staley led offense a couple years ago. Defense more likely because he's a defensive guy. Not really the hardest hitting of teams. And then the Cardinals obviously pivot hard last year, and then the Chargers pivot hard this year. The Chargers are an interesting team when the Cardinals play. They played them a couple years ago. Cardinals gave up that game at the end of the year, or at the end of the game. They gave up a win. And it's something that, when you look at the Chargers and you look at the Cardinals, they're both teams that probably should have more wins than they do. And it's something that they both seem to always get in their own ways. And they both seem to always make that mistake you just can't make at the time you just can't make it. And it's frustrating. And it's something that people have just grown accustomed to for both franchises. So now, with new coaches, new players, new theory and approach towards the game, you'd think that those 50-50 games would end more in wins than they had in years past. So when you look at the transformation for both of these teams, the Chargers are going to be a run-first offense. And, they were kind of with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, but then they decided they'd much rather throw the ball to their running back in the backfield, screen passes, things like that, around the line of scrimmage, than just hand the ball off. Justin Herbert's throwing the ball 40-plus times a game. Every time you throw the ball, there's a better chance you getting intercepted than just handing the ball off. Jim Harbaugh's like, no. They're going to run the bleep out of the ball. And then Justin Herbert's going to be in more of a position to succeed, just like Kyler Murray. You don't have to force your star quarterback to do everything. There are other ways to accent your star quarterback while also running the rock. And the Cardinals found that out very quickly because they were able to do it with Josh Dobbs last year. And then when Kyler Murray came back, obviously everything was elevated. I would say the Cardinals right now are in a better position for long-term success than the Chargers. I mean, Khalil Mack is over 30. Joey Bosa, right there. Derwin James is still great, but he's hurt all the time. The wide receiver crew is not what it was. And while John Harbaugh is going to be, I mean, do you remember when the Chargers and Raiders just needed to tie and they both would have made the playoffs? But Brandon Staley calls a timeout late in that game instead of just letting the clock run out in overtime. And they missed the playoffs because then the Raiders are like, screw this. And they kick the field goal and they win the game. It was like this gentleman's handshake that, you know what, let's just let the clock run out. AFC West teams both get in, Steelers don't. Brandon Staley calls a damn timeout, and they look like the most idiotic things. So obviously things are going to change in LA. But to think that that we could have predicted the future, that this game was going to be a smash mouth defensive battle, hard hitting, and you hope that the Cardinals can, keep that offense at bay. But this is going to be one of the tougher matchups for the Cardinals because Jim Harbaugh is an institution. You could very well see Jonathan Gannon have that Jim Harbaugh journey and rise. He's just not there yet. It's year 2. So we'll see. But this is going to be one of the more fun matchups. I think the Chargers are still, or used to be, just the most fun show on turf to watch. And end up being dumpster fires towards the end of games that they, were up multiple scores. It just was part of the nature of watching them. But now you have 2 defensive-minded head coaches with hard-hitting players and completely different makeups and allocation of talent and how to utilize that talent in an effort to veer away from the dysfunctionality of the past for both of these teams. And it's going to be a fun one. Then the script will be completely flipped to Looney Tunes banana, potentially 100 points scored on a short week in Miami in week 8. I'll unpack that next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day as we roll through every game of the Arizona Cardinals schedule in 2024. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. They're a licensed partner. They sell them tickets for the Major League Baseball, baby. And the experience for the Game Time app, which differentiates them, is, first of all, ticket prices go down the closer to games start. And it's not just games. It's comedy shows, concerts, basketball when it comes back around, football when it doesn't matter. But we are full swing baseball season, and Game Time has you covered for all of it. The best part, you can see the viewpoint from your tickets, from those seats, before you buy them. So it's not like, I didn't know this was an obstructed view. I didn't know this is what this was going to look like. I wouldn't have spent my money on this. I would have sat somewhere else in the ballpark. Game Time allows you to see into the future. Take the guesswork out of ticket buying with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase with the Game Time app. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. If there's a game that terrifies me for the Cardinals, where they are on their journey and their growth and their, rebirth in the 2024 season, it's not San Francisco on the road. It's not Buffalo in week 1. It's no other game aside from Miami, South Beach, week 8. Short week on the road. Miami is the regular season darling. They've got all the good players. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, who seems to be aging backwards. He seems to be getting faster as he gets older. It's going to be a sad day. It's going to be a sad day when Tyreek Hill isn't fast anymore. Like when he's like, and he could very well be the next Steve Smith. Like Steve Smith is one of the more undervalued wide receivers in the history of football, especially for his height. He was an outside receiver at 5'8", 5'9", an absolute bulldog. Then people forget he went from Carolina to the Ravens, where he had another 1,000-yard season. And Tyreek Hill could have that path, but for now he's still the most fat. And him and Jalen Waddle, it's not fair. And then you got Raheem Mostert, you got Devon Achane. You've got guys and they drafted the rookie running back out of Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt. This is nightmare fuel for a young secondary. Absolute nightmare fuel for a young secondary and a pass rush that hasn't fully arrived yet. Nightmare fuel. This is truly predicated upon the Cardinals getting pressure on Tua. And I know that every week getting pressure on a quarterback is better than not getting. I understand that. I don't say these things just to hear myself talk. But out of all the quarterbacks that the Cardinals are playing in 2024, if you can get Tua off schedule, you can beat the Miami Dolphins. And if you can't, you will lose. There are very few certainties in the NFL. That is as close to a certainty as humanly possible. If you don't get Tua Tagovailoa off his schedule, off his timing routes with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you will be embarrassed. And it's not just short routes. It's not just intermediate routes. If you give Tua 4 or 5 seconds in the pocket, he's got his timing routes down where he throws teardrop bombs at Tyreek Hill. It will be an embarrassing game for Cardinals fans to witness if the Cardinals pass rush can't get home in some capacity. Out of all the games, I don't care who else the Cardinals are playing. This is the one where it's like, I think that every week litmus tests are going to be for different things. And I discussed this 2 years ago, a little bit last year, but it was such a throwaway year isn't fair to say. But, without Kyler Murray, their new regime, it was a transitional year. It's hard to have little checkpoints. We did last year, but it was more of how are the rookies doing? Are the Cardinals getting embarrassed? Are they playing hard? Things like that. And they were, and the rookies did. And it was an easy checkpoint thing to do because there wasn't a whole lot of expectation and there wasn't a whole lot of pressure or weight held on them. It was very theoretical. It was very abstract, as I discussed last year, if you were an everydayer last year. And if not, maybe make this year your first year. The year before, there were checkpoints like, is Cliff Kingsbury still doing these things wrong? Week 1, yes, they got to win. Week 2, yes, they got to win. And then the winning kind of overshadowed the not doing the small things right. And, that's where we were at the end of the season. Some were surprised. I wasn't. This Week 8 matchup is a true litmus test for the pass rush and the secondary as a collective unit because they're directly correlated. Pass rush makes cornerback jobs easier, and a good cornerback room can mask a bad pass rush. Just what it is. So this is going to be a true litmus test. This isn't going to be about the offense. Cardinals are going to be able to put up points. They lost Christian Wilkins. David Howard had 2 good years, and he's got Jalen Ramsey's a year older. This is going to be in the South Beach spotlight solely on Darius Robinson, B.J. Ojulari, Zaven Collins, see if they can get pressure up the middle and collapse the pocket from the interior, which is something that has been an anomaly, which is something that is fugazi over the last couple of years. And if Max Melton, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Garrett Williams, we'll see if Elijah Jones gets in the rotation there. We'll see who the guys are going to be. Coupled with Budda Baker, Rabbit, and Jalen Thompson over the top. If the Cardinals can get momentum especially in those two positions on defense, the pass rush and the corner specifically. They get some momentum. They keep the Cardinals in games. The hard-hitting nature of Max Melton and Elijah Jones and Sean Murphy-Bunting translates into the NFL game. And then for Sean Murphy-Bunting, a bounce back after a not-so-great year in Tennessee last year. Then you get to Miami. It's like, okay, here's the show. Here's the real test. Here's the best 1-2 punch speed-wise in the NFL with an offense that's run by a guy that if he doesn't get off his timing, he'll pick anybody apart, any defense. That's going to be the test. And the Cardinals could 100% give up 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in the air if they're not ready. And this is going to show the transition from broken roster to drafting a couple classes and letting them get their legs and finding out what they're made of. And I know that I said 7 cliches in a row right there. There's still rookies that are leading and second-year players that are leading the cornerback room. So if they get lit up against Miami in week 8, it's like, okay, they're not ready yet. But the other side is, if they show up and you can keep Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle under 200 yards combined and keep Tua at bay and get pressure up the middle and off the edge and really stay in contention in this game, you're cooking in a way with ingredients that are far more developed than you expected 8 weeks into this season with this roster. And that's why this is the biggest litmus test. That's why this is the brightest light is on this game for the pass rush in the corner. I don't care what the record is for Miami. You know that at home, this team puts up bonkers numbers against bad secondaries. And we're going to find out how good or bad this secondary combined with the pass rush is in week 8. So I'm jacked up about it. Chicago Bears, week 9. What is that going to look like with Caleb Williams? Are the Cardinals going to be able to eat against rookie quarterback who went number 1 overall? We'll discuss it next. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. All right, final segment. Week 9, Chicago Bears. I love this series. I love this. I may do some variation of this towards right before the season starts, after we know a lot more with after camp and preseason. This is fun. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked on Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button there. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being everydayers. Love you. Wouldn't be here without you. Chicago Bears, new look. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and Caleb Bleepin Williams. Roma Dunze, Matt Eberflus, a new lease on life. This is just going to be fun. This is going to be a fun one because we don't know what the Cardinals are going to be. This is like, while this is an exercise, we only know so much, obviously, because we're months away from this game happening. So much is going to happen. You hope it's not directly correlated to injury for either side. You don't want anybody to get injured ever. And if you do, this isn't the podcast for you. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. That's what this game is going to be about. Obviously, they're never going to be on the field at the same time. But this is what it's going to be about. Because I will tell you, and I have told you, because I love you and I tell you the truth, Marvin Harrison Jr. was a steal of the draft. It's not a third-round pick. It's the best player in the draft who didn't go number 1 overall. So this is going to be fun because we're going to be split down the middle. This is the midway point of the season for 2 absolute stud rookies who have expectations of them, like all pro expectations at some point. And usually, well, I don't even know that. I don't know who has an easier path, a young quarterback in a good situation or a young wide receiver in a good situation. I don't know who has like the easier path. I feel like it's a dead heat for both of these guys, especially with the situations. Caleb Williams is, the Justin Fields experiment didn't work. I think he was severely failed by the organization with the lack of talent on those rosters. Ryan Poles seems to know what he's doing, a GM over there, and they bolstered that roster right away. That's one of the best rookie quarterback situations we've seen in quite some time. And then Kyler Murray with Marvin Harrison Jr. Kyler Murray's a star quarterback. Okay, fine. He's a top 12 quarterback, which is a QB1. Look at how much bad quarterback play is. Kyler Murray's a star quarterback. And Marvin Harrison Jr. comes in with a star quarterback, which is another thing that doesn't happen all the time. So both will have 8 weeks to get acclimated to the NFL game, and then they're going to face off. And it's going to be awesome. Who's had the best rookie season so far? You can see it on all the stories, on all of the, the national media, TV, and everything like that. Who's had the best season so far? With the two best players in the draft facing off in Arizona in week 9. Two teams who haven't won a whole bunch lately. Two teams that are really trying to pivot away from all the losing in their history. I know the Bears have won more than the Cardinals. You can see it now. This is I have no idea what the hell is going to happen kind of thing. Sure. Like, the defense is better. They re-signed Jalen Johnson, traded for Montez Sweat, and it's just something that it's going to be fun in a different way. It's going to be fun in a different way. It's going to be fun like you're watching the movie Transformers or you're watching The Day After Tomorrow. It's going to be a blockbuster afternoon, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be kid in a candy store, popcorn inhaling. It's going to be so fun. And also, it's a perfect opportunity for Kyler Murray to instill his dominance. Kyler Murray sees all these young quarterbacks just getting paid 23, 24, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, getting paid, the new group, the young guys, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. He sees it. He sees all the hype. He's a forgotten man. He's a forgotten man after the injury and then after what happened last season. This is a perfect time. Oh, Caleb Williams is going to be the greatest. Watch. Let's see what 18 and I just watch. And that's like the popcorn stuff. Like, this is something that this should be the Cardinals need is very loosely defined, especially on July 5th. The Cardinals need to win this game. Like, games like these are ones that teams who are stable, who use their talent properly and are well run, win. Sure, it could be a 50-50 game. You want to give it a 50-50 game feel? Absolutely. The Cardinals need to win games like this. Having a rookie quarterback go across the country and get a win in week 9 of his inaugural campaign as an NFL quarterback can't happen. Can't happen. And that's what I'm so excited for, because it's like, we have no idea. The first 8 weeks, the first 2 months are just going to be bonkers anyways with who the Cardinals play. And then you come home after playing Monday Night Football against the Chargers at home, going to South Beach on a short week to play Miami, and then you come home and you get the Bears, you get the number 1 overall pick. Popcorn, baby. And I can't wait. And I'll be here with you for it. Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I will talk to you next week.